Welcome back, friends. So today's story is about a boy who was considered weak by everyone and no one respected him. On top of that, he always lived in the shadow of others. But one day, his life changes completely because he gets a special power that keeps making him stronger. Initially, he faces a lot of difficulties understanding his new powers, but he doesn't give up. Gradually, he keeps training and facing new enemies, which makes him even more powerful, and the people who once laughed at him now start fearing him. As the story progresses, his power increases so much that he defeats even those enemies who were previously considered impossible to beat. Finally, an ordinary boy who was ignored by everyone later becomes one of the most powerful warriors. This is exactly why the story is titled From Overshadowed to Overpowered. Before I get into the story, let me clear a few things up. This is the age of reincarnation. Because of that, the old man you're about to see is going to be reborn in another world. For that reason, it'll take some time for the story to get going. Now let's jump into it. Episode 1 begins by showing us a scene at the Demon Lord's castle, where a group of heroes are facing the Demon Lord. This group consists mostly of sorcerers, but one of them happens to be a swordsman who was doing his absolute best to destroy the Demon Lord using his combat skills. Meanwhile, one of the sorcerers uses his earth magic and sinks one of the Demon Lord's legs into the ground. Then we cut to our main character, who doesn't look so great. On the other side, after regaining his composure, the Demon Lord gathers energy in his mouth and launches it straight at them, tearing through the ground and heading right for the group. But the Earth Sorcerer uses his earth magic to create a massive rock wall in front of them, buying the swordsman just enough time. That's why the swordsman leaped forward immediately. Now, seeing the Demon Lord charging at him, the Demon Lord begins gathering energy in his mouth again. Seeing this, the other sorcerers launch their attacks at him, but the Demon Lord uses his hand to block their attacks. Taking advantage of that opening, the swordsman drives his sword into the Demon Lord. Seeing this, our main character activates the lightning attribute and starts sending electric shocks through him. At the same time, he's shouting at all of them to attack together. Because of this, they all launched their attacks simultaneously, and the combined force of those attacks tore straight through the Demon Lord. With that, the Demon Lord is killed on the spot in a massive explosion. After witnessing this, our main character becomes overwhelmed with emotion and says, "Did we win?" After taking down the Demon Lord, the heroes head back to their city, where they are welcomed with an enormous celebration. The heroes are bowing before the king at the castle gates. The king looks at them and says, "These 4 great warriors assisted the hero and defeated the Demon King. Therefore, in recognition of your incredible efforts, I hereby award the 4 of you, the Sages of Fire, Earth, Wind, and Lightning, the highest title reserved for the most powerful mages, the 4 Apairs." After hearing those words from the king, our protagonist thinks to himself, the 4 Apairs. In this world, only people from the highest class families are ever given a title like this. Even though these titles only apply to the world of magic, they're still being granted to us. Man, what an incredible reward. One by one, thrones were being awarded to each hero according to their royal title. Then came our main character's turn. The king places the lightning throne upon him and says, "Sage Iftal, even though you may not be the most powerful in the world of magic, you have been granted the title of Emperor. From this day forward, you may call yourself the Emperor of Lightning." Upon hearing all of this, Iftal becomes extremely emotional and says, "This is the greatest honor of my life, Your Majesty." With that, the king raises his voice and shouts, "Everyone, give a loud applause for the Emperor." And all the people there erupted into cheers, shouting, "Hail the Emperor! Hail the Emperor! Hail the Emperor!" After seeing this scene, Iftal becomes deeply emotional and says, "After studying magic for 40 years, that was the moment my efforts were finally recognized in the best possible way." Then we jump to a scene from a few years later, where Iftal is standing alone at a location. A small elf girl comes up from behind him and says, "Master Iftal, breakfast is ready." He turns around, sees her, and greets her warmly. "Good morning, Merlin. Well, another fine day for training." With that, the scene cuts to his training session. Iftal is training a group of young children, but during the session, the kids are struggling to keep their composure. Iftal looks at them and says, "Very good. Keep it up. Stay focused." Meanwhile, a stone placed on top of a child's swing suddenly falls. Because of this, Iftal urges the child to stay focused. The child agrees and does exactly that. Iftal then addresses all of them. "If you can't focus, you won't be able to maintain your magic circle while chanting a spell." A little while later, Iftal pauses the training session but isn't done yet. He turns to the group and says, "Very good, everyone's been doing well. Now, let's try the level 4 spell again." He's about to start the next round of training when Merlin suddenly speaks up. "Master, why don't you take a rest for a while?" After hearing that, Iftal seems a little surprised, but after thinking it over, he tells her, "Hey, don't worry about me. I'm not tired yet." Hearing this, Merlin looks a little concerned, but she accepts what he says. She's worried because Iftal's condition has been slowly getting worse day by day, but Iftal begins remembering past events, a place completely destroyed, and in front of him, a small elf child crying next to a body. After seeing all of it, Iftal picks up the little girl and says, "A demon mother and her child, were they caught in the middle of our battle?" Merlin appears to be from the same clan as the Demon King. When we 4 heroes killed the Demon King, her mother must have been caught in the devastation too. After reflecting on everything, Iftal says to himself, "I don't think you remember this, but I killed a lot of people from your clan, and yet here you are, looking at me with such concern." After thinking it all through, he turns back to the group and says, "Alright, let's run through our level 4 spell one more time." All the children get ready, but then Merlin suddenly speaks up, "Master Iftal, please teach me about the level 6 spell." After hearing the mention of level 6, all the children gasp and start chattering. "Level 6? We've barely just finished learning up to level 5. Hearing this, Iftal smiles and says, "Merlin, as always, you're overflowing with enthusiasm." Merlin grins back and says, "Of course I am. I'm the top student of Iftal the Lightning Affer, after all." Iftal is a little caught off guard hearing the mention of Lightning Affer again, but he calmly explains it to her. "What's the rush, Merlin? How about we continue focusing on applying our concentration techniques instead? The basics are everything." Merlin pouts a little and says, "I know, but I need to hurry." "Well, I guess it doesn't matter." To himself, Iftal thinks, "I think this girl wants to prove to herself that she can stand on her own 2 feet before my condition gets any worse." After this, the scene cuts to a dense forest. Merlin is standing at the entrance with her staff at the ready. She gets a little spooked by the eerie sounds echoing from inside, but she pulls herself together and says, "I'm not scared," and with that, she walks in. As the scene continues, Merlin's unease grows the deeper she goes into the forest. She eventually walks up to a cave and stands right at the entrance, saying to herself, "I'm going to defeat every monster in here so I can truly call myself the greatest student of the Lightning Aether. That way, I'll be able to handle things on my own, and Master Iftal won't have to push himself so hard anymore. He'll finally be able to rest." With that, she steps inside the cave. Then the scene cuts to shortly after, and Merlin is sprinting out of that cave for her life, because the cave's monster, a massive wolf beast, is right on her heels. As she runs, Merlin mutters to herself, "My level 4 magic didn't do anything at all. I've only got 1 chance left." She skids to a stop, raises her staff, and begins chanting, "Spirit of the wind, enter my hands. Grant me your blessings and power. Unite with the lightning, and spread your light through the pact I have made with you." Level 6, Thunder Blast. With that, the Thunder Blast shoots straight toward the wolf beast. Seeing her level 6 attack actually work, Merlin was beyond excited. She hadn't even thought she'd be able to pull it off, but the joy didn't last long, because the wolf beast survived the hit. Seeing this, Merlin's face falls in shock. The wolf beast dashes toward her at frightening speed and launches an attack. The impact sends Merlin crashing to the ground, injured. But the wolf beast still isn't done. It walks right up and stands directly in front of her, drool dripping from its jaws. Merlin, lying there on the ground, had given up hope. But then, a sudden explosion, and the one who caused it was none other than Iftal. Seeing her master standing there, Merlin felt hope flood back into her. But Iftal is furious. "How many times have I told you to stay away from this forest?" Seeing how angry he is, Merlin quickly starts apologizing. After hearing her out, Iftal looks at her and says, "Listen, Merlin, out of all my students, you have the most potential, but you're being way too reckless. The power you're so desperate to grab, it isn't really power at all. If you rush it, it'll slip right through your fingers." While he's still talking to her, both of them sense the wolf beast behind them, and Merlin has clearly noticed too, but Iftal keeps going. "I'm still talking to you, don't interrupt me." He then turns to face the beast and hits it directly with a level 10 spell. The attack is devastatingly powerful, and with just one strike, the wolf beast is completely obliterated.
After that, the scene cuts to Iftal's house.
Merlin is inside, lost in thought, saying to herself, "Master Iftal is unbelievably strong." Iftal overhears her and says flatly, "Alright, you've studied enough for today, go to sleep." Merlin is about to head to bed when she suddenly freezes, because Iftal right in front of her has just started coughing up blood. He steadies himself and says with a bitter look, "Dang this illness, and you saw that, didn't you?" Merlin's voice trembles. "I noticed it before too. That's why I've been trying to learn as fast as I can," Iftal thinks to himself. "So that's why she's been pushing herself so hard." Merlin then says quietly, "Master Iftal, please take care of yourself. Rest as much as you can." Iftal replies, "I don't have much time left. There's no room to rest." Merlin presses him, "Then why are you still pushing yourself to train others when you're this sick?" He looks away and answers, "Because I want to train promising students like you, students who will carry things forward after I'm gone. And because I wanted to become the greatest mage in the world. Well, every mage wants to be the greatest. I'm no different. But it looks like that'll never happen for me." After hearing him say that, Merlin protests, "What are you talking about? You're incredibly powerful. The Lightning Afer is the strongest among the 4 Appers. You just used a level 10 spell like it was nothing." She then goes quiet, catching herself. Iftal thinks to himself, "I know what you're trying to say, but compared to the younger guys and their natural talent, even during the battle against the Demon King, the oldest one there, was the only one who was truly struggling." Merlin's hands tighten as silence falls between them. Then the next day's scene begins. One of Iftal's students is banging on the gate, shouting, "Master Iftal, big news! Master Iftal, big news!" Hearing the commotion, Iftal opens the gate. The kid catches his breath and starts explaining, "Flame Afer has completed the theoretical framework for the magical attribute system, and all the details are written right here." After hearing all of this, Iftal takes the paper and begins reading, thinking to himself, "Figuring out a person's magical attributes has long been considered impossible. I had no idea it could be done this way. But Flame Afer is exactly the kind of genius I always knew he was." The student then asks, "Master Iftal, what are you going to do with this?" Iftal answers, "I think it's worth testing out. We have to give it a try." Shortly after, we see a scene where Iftal has gathered several children to witness the experiment before he begins. He says, "All right, let's start with Merlin." And with that, he plucks one of her hairs. The experiment begins. As he conducts it, Iftal explains each step to the group. You place a hair from the subject into each vial and dip it into specially prepared magical water for each element: fire, earth, water, and wind. Then, after a burst of light, colors appear inside the vials corresponding to the elements. After a moment, one of the kids says, "The blue and green ones are glowing. What does that mean?" Iftal explains, "According to the paper, the intensity and depth of the color correspond to a rank between E and S. The green and blue are both glowing brightly with high depth, so I'd say that means your rank is S in both water and wind." A girl then observes, "The remaining vials are red and brown, so fire is C-ranked and earth is also C-ranked, right?" Iftal nods in agreement and thinks to himself, "These results didn't seem to mean much to Merlin, but I've raised her since she was a baby, so based on everything I know about her magical tendencies, these results are 100% accurate." He then continues speaking aloud, "In the kind of magic we study today, students are taught all basic elements, and then, after some time, we determine what their attributes are. But with this method, we'll know from the moment someone starts school, no, even from the moment they're born, what they're naturally strongest in, and because of that, they'll be able to grow even more powerfully." After thinking everything through, he says, "Now it's my turn." Hearing this, Merlin looks surprised and says, "There's no need for that. You're one of the 4 Appers." One of the kids cuts in, "Aren't you curious about what his result will be?" After that, all the kids start buzzing among themselves. "This is going to be incredible. I can't wait to see it." Hearing all their excitement, Iftal gets curious too, and thinks to himself, "Honestly, I want to know as well. Even if I was never able to reach the absolute highest level of magic, I've always wanted to know, did I ever have the talent to get there?" The experiment begins. As he waits, Iftal thinks to himself, "I've worked not dozens, but hundreds of times harder than anyone else. That's why I'm sure the second Afer must have worked hard too, but I've worked far harder than even him." But when the results finally come in, he is completely stunned. Every single vial remains colorless. Not a single element reacted. One of the kids reads from the theory paper and says, "It says that being colorless means having no elemental talent, but there's no way you have no talent at all." After seeing the results, Iftal's mind starts racing. This is absolutely impossible, but having not even the faintest trace of an attribute means that no spirit ever blessed me. But why? I am a lightning Afer. How? Seeing her master this shaken, Merlin says quickly, "Maybe we did it wrong. Let's try it one more time." Iftal replies, "You're right, let's run it again. I'm sure there was a mistake somewhere." Then we see a scene shortly after where Iftal has repeated the experiment many times, and the same result keeps coming up every single time. After seeing this over and over, Iftal says quietly to himself, I've tried so many times, and every time, the vials stay colorless. Why? It took me longer to learn magic than anyone else. Only through relentless effort did I ever get better at it, and that's all it ever was, effort. That's why I could never surpass the second Afer. He kept pulling ahead of me. I had no natural elemental attribute for magic. That's the only reason, and it's such a simple reason. How easy to understand now. Because of all the stress he was putting himself through, his illness begins to take over. Merlin, watching from the side, becomes very distressed. A few days pass, and his illness worsens significantly. Outside the gate, Merlin calls out, "Master Iftal, I've brought some hot water for you." But he refuses to let her in. When his coughing finally settles for a moment, he thinks to himself, "I always believed that someday I'd reach the absolute highest level of magic, but I was never able to break through the wall called talent. At that moment, I lost every last desire and hope. No. I didn't have any hope or expectation to begin with, did I? How useless I've been. How utterly useless. I just wish I had more time. I truly believed I could get there through hard work alone, but now I'm so disappointed. I'm so incredibly disappointed." Those were his last words. After that, his breathing stopped completely. A somber thought lingers. But I still wonder, what will happen to that girl in this world? She has no one except this man, but there's nothing I can do about it now. Then the scene shifts to some written details, which make it clear that this is actually the second time this man has been reincarnated. To be honest, I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything that's happening in this story, and that girl is now all alone. Only God knows what's going to happen to her. After this, the scene cuts to a goat that has appeared in front of him. Seeing it, he says, "Hey, it's you." That's right, this was 50 years ago. I'd completely forgotten I even had a skill. And this is where we learn that this was the first time the two of them ever met. The goat speaks to him. "It's been a long time, Iftal. Your attribute endowment gave you the power to keep pushing toward your goal without ever giving up." Hearing this, Iftal says, "That's it. That explains why I was never able to quit anything, no matter how hard things got." The goat, Gatos, then says, "Now it is time for your second reincarnation. Once again, you'll be granted 2 bonus skills to start with. So tell me, what do you think about the 2x growth skill?" Iftal shakes his head. "No, I'll pass on that. I still have all of my magical knowledge with me. As long as I have the time to put in the work and grow, that's enough for me." Gatos smiles warmly and replies, "That's exactly what I expected to hear. After all, you reached the rank of the 4 Epers without a single natural elemental attribute, and that happened not just because of talent, but because of your sheer force of will." Iftal replies, "I honestly don't know if I'll be able to make it that far again." Gatos smiles once more and says, "Very good. Are you ready?" Iftal was fully prepared, and with that, Iftal's soul was reincarnated into the body of a young child. When he regains consciousness, he's completely taken aback. He checks over his body carefully and says, "My memories are still intact. I still have everything, all of it." After processing everything, he walks out through the gate and heads downstairs. There, he spots a mirror and looks into it. He stares at his face and says, "I'm Iftal, the Lightning Afer." And just to clear this up for everyone, the child he's been reborn into is also named Iftal. Before Iftal could say anything else, his mother came rushing toward him and threw her arms around him, crying out, "Good morning, Iftal. Did you sleep well?" She was hugging him so tightly he could barely breathe, so she quickly loosened her grip. After that, the scene cuts to breakfast. During the meal, Iftal thinks to himself, "Because of the reincarnation skill I received from Gatos, I'm now living my 3rd life. And ever since I turned 4, the memories of the old Iftal have been coming back to me. This time, I'm going to completely master magic. Actually, just this morning, I remembered how to prepare the setup for the magical attribute test. So alright, it's time to give it a try." We then cut outside, where Iftal is lying in the grass and mutters, "I had hope," and his voice trails off. Then we move to another area, where Iftal has set up 4 vials in front of him. He runs through the experiment, and in the result, once again, no color appears. After taking it all in, he says to himself, "Maybe when I learn a level 10 spell, I'll hit my ceiling like I did last time." While he's thinking this through, a dragon suddenly flies by overhead. Iftal's eyes go wide. That's a dragon, and its eyes are dark red. Has someone made it furious? At the same time, we see a group of horseback riders chasing after it, shouting, "It's heading toward Dragon Capital. This is the worst case scenario. Go after it. Don't let it get away." After hearing all of this, Iftal instinctively starts following it, but he suddenly stops dead in his tracks. "Wait, Right. When I was in my prime, I could do something about this, but right now, I'm only 4 years old. What am I supposed to do? If I had known this would happen, I would have been born into a body that could already handle magic at that level. Then it hits him. Wait, I remember that magic, the spell I created myself, my own original spell. Level 10, Ifdol's Thunderstrike. The moment he called out the name, the spell activated on its own. Ifdol immediately breaks into a sweat. The spell grew even more powerful, and bolts of lightning burst out from it and crashed directly into the dragon. Seeing the dragon go down in front of him, Ifdol is absolutely stunned. I actually did it. Then we cut back to the horseback riders, who pull up short in disbelief. The dragon just dropped to the ground. What happened? Was it struck by lightning? Meanwhile, Ifdol stands there, processing everything. So this means I've been reborn into this world, and at just 4 years old, I can already use the magical attributes from my previous life.